Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of Carl's Christian Podcast. Today, I am here with Bill Angelot, and today we will be discussing several different topics that have been highlights in our news recently, such as vaccinations, Biden's door-to-door plan, Trump suing big tech, and things around that basis. And yeah, would you like to introduce yourself before we start?
Sure. My name is Bill Anderlot. I live here in Surrey County. I am a father, a husband, a former public school speech pathologist, a former armed nuclear security officer, and now I work from home.
Yep. But everyone, first off, before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you enjoy what we're going to be talking about today, and like the video as well so that YouTube gets it out there. Anyways, we're going to start off with Trump's lawsuit against big tech. I'm going to read the article first and then we'll discuss it. So it says, Parler's former interim CEO Mark Melker argued on Fox and Friends First on Thursday that former President Donald Trump's lawsuit against big tech companies could break new grounds. Meckler made the comment that the day after Trump announced that he will lead a lawsuit over alleged censorship against Twitter, Facebook, and Google, which are the three tech companies that removed him from their platform after the January 6th attack on the Capitol by a mob of his supporters, which is not true. The lawsuit will be a class action filing with Trump as the lead plaintiff, claiming that he's been censored by the companies. There is no better evidence that big tech is out of control than the fact that they banned the sitting president of the United States earlier this year, Trump said, speaking from his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. If they can do it to me, they can do it to anyone, he added. Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook each barred Trump over his claims that the presidential elections was stolen, alleging that he contributed to the violence at the Capitol on January 6th. YouTube is owned by Google as well. After a close review of recent tweets from Donald Trump's account and the context around them, specifically how they are being received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter wrote in a blog post about its decisions. But Republicans and Trump have maintained that these companies are unfairly censoring conservatives, pointing to the international dictators who still can post on Twitter. While the social media companies are officially private entities, in recent years they have ceased to be private with the enactment and the historical use of Section 230, which profoundly protects them from liability, Trump said, is in effect a massive government subsidiaries. These companies have been co-opted, coerced, and weaponized by government actors to become the enforcers of illegal, unconstitutional censorship. Trump calls social media companies the de facto censorship arm of the U.S. government. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act states that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. It has been pivotal in the rise of today's social media by allowing not only internet service providers, but also Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and others to be shielded from liability from content posted on their platforms by third parties in most cases. Meckler said he agrees with Trump that the existing law says that the First Amendment protections do not imply censorship by private companies. He then pointed to a theory budding in academic communities in which large, encompassing social media companies act as essentially a state actor when they censor people. That's about all for this article. I think I've read most of it. But it's basically Trump suing big tech because they censored the president of the United States of America because they didn't agree with what he was saying. And he was speaking the truth, but I guess they're blocking it out because they don't want people to hear it from him. So Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube all banned his accounts. They basically shadow banned him. But yeah, do you have anything to say on that article?
Yes, sir. I think just on the surface, this is a massive, earth-shattering lawsuit. And on the surface, just like the article says, they censored the President of the United States. But there's a lot of other things going on beneath the surface in this suit. There was one sentence that you talked about. I'm not going to be able to find it right now, but anyway, yes, we have the Iran Ayatollah who could come out and on his Twitter account threaten the United States, say death to the United States, and they don't get censored. But our president talks about how we need to come to Washington, D.C. on January 6th to support him. He had no time mentioned violence in any way, shape, or form. And I was there on January 6th, and there were 1 million people there who were there to support their president and support freedom. And that was the overwhelming feeling that day. It was an amazing day. And frankly, when the group went from his speech up to the Capitol, we had no idea what was even going on inside the Capitol. We could see it from a distance. But anyway, I know I'm rabbit trailing already, but they censor him. They've impeached him or attempted to impeach him for that. And it's just, it's absurd. Whereas somebody can go on, another world leader, and say death to America, and they still have their Twitter account. But even deeper than that, there's other lawsuits that have already gone favorably. Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, he has filed a lawsuit against Twitter, as well as Dr. Shiva, who ran for either Senate or Congress. I believe it was in Massachusetts. The dude went to MIT. I think he has 3 or 4 PhDs from MIT. The guy's brilliant. And he's a statistician, and he has all kinds of incredible data that shows just statistical anomalies in his election, as well as what happened in the presidential election. And so there was a paragraph in the article you read, Carlton, that talked about how President Trump said Twitter can be an arm of the government. And what has come out in the Dr. Shiva suit against Twitter is that they have documentation that, and I don't remember the official, it was either an AG, Attorney General, or a high-ranking election official. They have documentation that they reached out to Twitter and formed open lines of communication, and they told them who to censor and who not to censor. And that right there is a major illegal act on the part of Twitter, and they absolutely do not deserve protection under 230. And not only that, but in this case that Trump has filed, there is going to be a lot of information that is going to be put out that up until this point, no one puts it out. The mainstream media is not going to put anything out that shows that Donald Trump speaks the truth, that Donald Trump fights for what's right and wrong when it comes to these corrupt big tech companies.
Yeah. So that does make sense. They're censoring the people that they don't want to have a voice. They don't want them to speak for them, that we're able to post the truth, what's going on in the world, and give our opinion on it as well. But yeah, in other news, we have Biden's door-to-door plan. And it says, let me read this. Biden just introduced a door-to-door plan for COVID-19 vaccines. President Joe Biden has introduced a door-to-door plan to get more Americans vaccinated against the novel coronavirus. What is Biden's door-to-door plan? Biden pitched the idea to help people get vaccinated against COVID-19. The New York Times reports that the plan would send people door-to-door, set up clinics at workplaces, and urge employers to offer paid time as a part of a renewed push to reach tens of millions of unvaccinated Americans. Now we need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, and oftentimes doors to door, literally knocking on doors to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus. People get vaccinated. Please get vaccinated. It works. It's free, Biden said, according to the New York Times. It's never been easier, and it's never been more important. Do it now for yourself and the people you care about. For your neighborhood, for your country. It sounds corny, but it's a patriotic thing to do. The Washington Post White House Press Secretary Jen said the new plan comes so close to 160 million people in the U.S. will be fully vaccinated from COVID-19 by sometime this week. So in this post, he says he wants to send his agents door to door to come knock on your door to give you the vaccine so that I guess they don't think that we know that the vaccine exists. They want to give it to us for free. And he said to help people get protected from the virus. It works. It's free. Even though in a clip we're going to watch that's later on in today's podcast, there's this Stanford professor, and he's saying that the vaccine's still in trial, it's still being tested, and that they don't need to be rushing it like this. But do you have anything to...
Yeah, Carlton, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to read you some data. This is from the VIIRS COVID vaccine data. So this is an official website, VIIRS, which I cannot remember what VIIRS stands for. It tells the information really going back decades of vaccine data and damage or illnesses caused by vaccines, adverse effects. So this is as of July 7th, 2021. And this is specifically for COVID vaccine. So there has been 438,440 doses. This is what they're referring to. No, and I'm sorry, that's not accurate. There's 438,000 in change adverse events. So I'm not sure of the total doses given. Out of those, there was 26,818 hospitalizations, 7,463 disabled, 3,324 heart attacks, 2,200 myocarditis reaction, which is swelling of the heart, 985 miscarriages, 9,048 deaths, yet it is considered 100% safe and effective. So that data is from July 7th, 2021, and they want to go knocking on our doors and telling us that we need to get a vaccine because it's a good way to prevent COVID. They're not going to be coming in my yard, Carlton. I do not. This data is, this is all relatively new, and to have this number of adverse reaction to a vaccine that what people don't realize, we're talking about mandatory vaccines. They are not supposed to. They're going to try, I believe, to make it mandatory, but this is still an experiment. All the vaccines are still considered experimental at this point because they're so new. In order for a vaccine to get FDA approval, it usually takes years, if not decades. And they were saying that before, when this all started. Nobody believed Trump was going to be able to get a vaccine out, but he rushed it through. And I believe he did that because he had to, because he knew that if they didn't come out with a vaccine, we were going to be locked down indefinitely. And what we're learning from lockdowns is, one, they were unnecessary, but two, they're causing increased depression, increased suicides. It's affecting our children in ways we don't even know. We've never been through this before, where our kids can't go out and socialize. They have to stay in, not go to school. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So Trump had to come out because with these vaccines, because he wanted to get us outside again, get us free again. So anyway, I don't know if I got off topic there. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, that was a good answer. Well, we got another article from Associated Press, which says vaccinated teachers and students don't need masks, and it's from New York. Vaccinated teachers and students don't need to wear a mask inside school buildings, the CDC says on Friday, as they're trying to relax their COVID-19 guidelines. The changes come amid a national vaccination campaign in which children as young as 12 are eligible to get shots, as well as a general decline in COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths. We're at a new point in the pandemic that we're all really excited about, and so it's a time to update the guidance, said Aaron Seberskitz, who leads the CDC task force that prepares recommendations designed to keep Americans safe from COVID-19. The nation's top public health agency is not advising schools to require shots for teachers and vaccine-eligible kids, and it's not offering guidance on how teachers can know how and which students are vaccinated, or how parents will know which teachers are immunized, okay. That's probably going to make for some challenging school environments, said Elizabeth Stewart, a Johns Hopkins University public health professor who has children in elementary and middle school. It would be a very weird dynamic socially to have some kids wearing masks and some not, and tracking that. Teachers shouldn't need to be keeping track of which kids should have masks on, she said. Another potential headache: schools should continue to space kids and their desks 3 feet apart in classroom, the CDC says, but the agency emphasized that spacing should not be an obstacle to getting kids back in school, and it said distancing is not required among fully vaccinated staff or students. All of this may prove hard to implement, and that's why CDC is advising schools to make decisions that make the most sense. The biggest questions will be at middle schools, where some students are eligible for shots and others aren't. If sorting vaccinated and unvaccinated students proves too burdensome, administrators might choose to keep a mask policy in place for everyone. The guidance is really written to allow flexibility at the local level. State mandates are further complicating the issue. Several states, including California and Virginia, have policies requiring all students to wear masks at school regardless of vaccinations. But governors and lawmakers in some other states, including Arizona, Iowa, and Texas, have barred local school officials from requiring masks. Widespread mask wearing is not expected to continue this fall in some of the nation's largest school districts, but not in others. In Detroit public schools, everyone will be required to wear a mask unless everyone in the classroom has been fully vaccinated. Philadelphia was planning to require masks, but the school district was reviewing the policy based on the new CDC guidelines. Houston will not require masks at all because of the Texas laws. What about requiring a COVID-19 vaccination as a condition of school attendance? That's commonly done across the country to prevent spread of measles and other diseases. The CDC has repeatedly praised such requirements, but the agency on Friday didn't recommend that measure because it is considered a state or local policy decision, CDC officials said. Early in the pandemic, health officials were worried school might become coronavirus cauldrons that spark community outbreaks, but studies have shown that schools often see less transmissions than the surrounding community when certain prevention measures are followed. The new guidance is the latest version to advice the CDC began making to schools last year. In March, the CDC stopped recommending that children in their desks be spaced 6 feet apart and shrink the distance to 3 feet, and dropped it its calls for use of plastic shields. The new school's guidance says no one at school needs to wear masks at recess or in most outdoor situations. However, unvaccinated people are advised to wear masks if they are in a crowd for an extended period of time, like in the stands at a football game. Ventilation and hand washing continue to be important. Students and staff also should stay home when they are sick. Testing remains an important way to prevent outbreaks, but the CDC also says people who are fully vaccinated do not need to participate in such screening. Separating students into smaller groups or cohorts continues to be a good way to help reduce spread of the virus, but the CDC discouraged putting vaccinated and unvaccinated kids in separate groups, saying schools shouldn't stigmatize any groups or perpetuate academic, racial, or other tracking. So yeah, that's basically it for that article right there. They're saying that vaccinated students don't have to wear their masks, and they're arguing about it and contradicting each statement that they make. We hope you have enjoyed part 1 of episode 4 on Carl's Christian Podcast. If you did, then please tune in to part 2 of episode 4 tomorrow. And thank you for listening. Have a blessed day.